This is Senior Algebra, section 6.3. Today we are factoring trinomials that have a leading coefficient greater than 1. We're going to do this with factoring by grouping here. So in example 1, if we recall factor by grouping, we're going to multiply our first and last terms together here, 2x squared and 6, our squared term and our constant term. We get 12x squared. And what we're trying to do is figure out what number times 12x squared, or what two numbers, multiply to 12x squared and add to 7x. So if I look, I have 12. Well, I know that's a positive 12. I know it's a positive 7. So what multiplies to a positive? Well, positive, positive, or negative, negative. Does have to be positive. So it's going to be 3x and 4x. At this point, this is where I'm going to replace the 3x and 4x. Put that in for the 7x. So I'm going to take the 7x out. I'm going to put in the 3x and 4x. So 2x squared plus 4x plus 3x plus 6. So now I'm going to do my factor by group, and I'm going to look at my first two terms here. I'm going to pull out a 2 and an x. There's my x. I have x plus 2 left inside. Then I'm going to pull out a 3, and I'm going to have x plus 2 left. If I look at what I have in common, I have the x plus 2 is in common. So I'm going to pull those out. And I look, what do I have left? I have a 2x and a 3. So I have 2x plus 3, which is left. So now it is factored. I can go and check my answers by multiplying. So x times 2x, 2x squared. X times 3 is 3x. 2 times 2x is 4x. And 2 times 3 is 6. Notice my 3x and 4x are the same. Those are my two middle terms that I add together, 3x and 4x here. And when I would multiply them together, my final answer, 2x squared plus 7x plus 6, yeah, that's what I started with. So what do I know? I know that x plus 2 and 2x plus 3 are the factors. That is my answer. So I'm going to do the same thing in B here. I'm going to multiply my squared term and my constant together, 6x squared minus 1. If they weren't written in this order in descending order, I would write them as that. So it's a negative 6x squared and a positive 1x. So in this case, I'm multiplying two numbers and I want it to be negative. Well, what does that mean? That means one has to be negative, one has to be positive. So what are two numbers that multiply to 6 and have a difference of positive 1? Well, I know what 1 and 6 and 3 and 2 are my factors here. So I write those out. Now, you may not have to write them. So if I look, which one has a difference of positive 1? Well, that's going to be 3 and negative 2 here. So it's negative 2x and a positive 3x. At this point, I'm going to plug those in for the 1x. So I have 6x squared minus 2x plus 3x and minus 1. I'm going to do my factor by grouping. I'm going to pull out the 2x. I have 3x minus 1 left. And then if I look, I have 3x minus 1. Well, I can't pull anything out, but notice they are the same. So I'm just going to pull out a positive 1. I have 3x minus 1 left. And notice those two are the same. So I have 3x minus 1 and 2x plus 1. Notice that's where I get the 2x and the 1 from as well. So in C here, in the last example, I have a little bit bigger of numbers here. The numbers are a little bit tougher here. Well, first thing I see is I see an x cubed here. x squared and an x. So looks like I'm going to end up having to pull out an x. I'm also going to look and pull out a 2 as well. So when I pull out a 2, I get 14x squared minus 29x and then minus 15. The 2x I'm going to carry down, and I'm going to remember to write that at the end. And then I'm going to multiply the first and the last ones together, 14x squared and negative 15. When I multiply those together, I get negative 210 x squared and negative 29x. So at this point, I could try to figure out what numbers multiply to negative 210, but there are so many of them. I'm going to look at a different way. I'm going to look and try to figure out what numbers add to negative 29. So what numbers add to negative 29? Well, let's start as small as we can here, or as tiny as we can here. I'm going to start with negative 30 and a positive 1, because negative 30 plus 1 is a negative 29. So that would work for this first part. But when I multiply those, what do I get? I get negative 30. What did I want it to multiply to? I wanted it to multiply to negative 210. So, that doesn't work. Well, okay, increase it, because I want the multiples to get bigger. So when I multiply negative 31 and 2, I get negative 62. Nope, still not big enough. Keep increasing the numbers so that I can get to negative 210. All right, negative 32 and 3. Well, that's negative 96. Not big enough still. And I can keep on going through this. Now, you don't have to increase it by 1 every time. You can just guess. Like if I guessed 38 and negative 38 and 6, maybe that would work. I don't know. In fact, in this one, instead of going up to 33, I'm going to go up to 34. I'm going to increase it a little bit more. So negative 34 and 5 is still negative 29. But when I multiply them, I get negative 170. All right, we're getting closer here to our negative 210. If I try negative 35 and 6, when I multiply them, yeah, I get negative 210. So notice, negative 35 and 6 will add to negative 29 and multiply to negative 210. Now let's say I just put in something else. Let's say I put in negative 36 and 7. When I multiply those, I get negative 252. That number is too big. So what would I have to do to adjust it? I'd have to adjust the numbers down and go down. Notice when I multiplied them and they were too small, I had to adjust the numbers up. So it's a different way to kind of look at it and attack the problem here. So my two factors, 6x and negative 35x. I'm going to go ahead and plug those in now. 14x squared plus 6x minus 35x minus 15. I'm going to do my factor by grouping. What can I take out of 14 and 6? A 2x. I'm left with 6x plus 3. Now in this one I have a positive 7x plus 3. So when I have a negative 35 minus 15, I have to take out the negative as well. That's going to leave me with my 7x plus 3. At this point, what do they have in common? They have the 7x plus 3. And I'm still left with the 2x minus 5. So my final answer, 7x plus 3 times 2x minus 5. And the thing I cannot forget is to bring down that 2x here. So the 2x is going to go out in front. So that is my final answer.